Welcome in, everybody. It's your host, Drew, from Building the Pride. So, first things first, there's going to be some changes coming to the show. I'm the reason why I got another job. It's on second shift. It's going to change what we're going to do. We're still going to make the show. We just have to figure out when we can both do it. Not a big deal. We're going to figure it out. Tomorrow, on our regular show Tuesday, we're going to do our post-free agency 8-man mock draft. And that should be a lot of fun. We're still finalizing who's going to be there. We have 7 of the 8. We'll just see. Maybe I'm doing 2 divisions. Maybe I'm just doing a single division. Either way, it's going to be a blast. So, you know how much I love to talk. So, should be a lot of fun. And then today, I just felt like drafting. I just felt like doing a mock draft. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try out Pro Football Network's mock draft database. I've liked I like their mock draft database because I feel that their team needs are very accurate to what I've seen of the consensus. Who knows? Like, obviously, the NFL draft is going to. What is happening here? There we go. Let me pause that. Get rid of the ads. Come back over here. We had a person watching, and then they went away. I hate that. I just like it when everybody has fun. Where did... Oh, am I doing this in the reverse? No. StreamYard, Chrome. Not picking up my other... Screen sharing was canceled. Okay. Why is this? Oh, I don't need to share my screen. I'm the only one here. There we go. Let's put that in there. Now I will go and make it bigger because that is what I always yell at Mike to do. That's about as big as I can make it. All right, so we start off pretty easily here. I think Cam Ward is the obvious number 1 pick at this point. Abdul Carter, number 2. You can make the case he's the best player in the draft. Travis Hunter, Will Campbell, Tyler Warren's a surprise. Gene T at New Orleans is a surprise. Packers trade up. Interesting. Shadur Sanders goes to the Seahawks. Ooh. Dallas trades down and gets Jahdae Barron. That is nice. Okay. So we have some... This is another reason why I like this mock draft simulator. They offer you trades, and the trades I don't think are crazy. I will say, you trying to trade up, they want their value if you want to trade up. So here we have Detroit gives up their first round pick and their 4th round pick, and we drop down. What is that? 19 spots. We pick up the 78th overall pick, and we get a 2nd rounder in next year's draft. What else are we bid? Okay, we drop down 20 picks. We get the 98th pick. We get a 2nd and a 3rd. Sounds pretty good. Or we drop down 14 picks, and we pick up a 2nd. Let's see who's on the board. Okay, we got Josh Simmons. Probably not. Walter Nolan. Gray Zabel is a real option. Let's talk about James Pierce. I saw James Pierce still getting mocked to the Lions, and I don't get it at all. 6'5", 245, whether that's his combine or his Tennessee-based height and weight, I don't know. He has an excellent RAS score. Pierce is an explosive edge rusher with the athleticism and the motor to generate consistent pass pressure as a pass rusher. He's shown that his combination of first-step acceleration, counter agility, and speed to power allow him to be NFL-caliber offensive lineman at the point of attack on a consistent basis. He knows what moves to use against certain offensive linemen, and he executes those moves with precise timing and placement. Though he projects better as a stand-up edge rusher in a 3-4, not what we have, Pierce can rush with his hand in the dirt and could fare well in a base 4-3, which we are closer to. If he can add more mass to his frame, Pierce's run defense projection is much less clear with his lower early down usage and below average proportional length, and teams will have to assess his mindset. But he's ultimately one of the most prolific pass rusher producers in the class, and his upside is tantalizing. So here's the problem with James Pierce. James Pierce has concerns about how much he wants to play and his work ethic. So the report or the claim that I saw was that his teammates at Tennessee would be on the practice field. He would be at his apartment playing Xbox or whatever. I don't know how true that is. I'm not at Tennessee. If it's true at all, I think it's one of those things that takes him off the Lions board. Like, name me another player who fits that description at all in any way, shape, or form that's on the Lions roster, because I don't think there is one. So I think I'd rather just have him off the board. Now, who else do we have here? We have, they've moved Jackson Dart up to 31. Tyleik Williams would be a good potential nose tackle once DJ Reader's contract expires. Donovan Ezeraku, shorter than James Pierce, around the same weight. Sack production in 2024 speaks volume. I think he had 16 and a half sacks. But Donovan Ezeraku's tape is flooded with pro-ready technique. He uses his hands incredibly well, and he plays with relentless passion when he's chasing down the ball. His sack total doesn't just consist of proverbial empty calories. Ezeraku earns his sacks with active rush angle manipulation and intelligent hand application and counter work, emboldened by his natural leverage, burst, bend, and proportional length. Because of his smaller frame, Ezeraku could struggle against the run early in his NFL career. Additionally, while he has good tools, he doesn't quite have elite size-adjusted speed and burst. Still, as a stand-up outside linebacker in a base 3-4, Ezeraku has the skill to be a solid starter fairly in his career, particularly on passing downs. So here's the other thing. The Lions do not run a base 3-4. Now, there are people who disagree, but what I would say, what is happening here? What's going on? Oh, there it is. Okay, I don't know what happened. But they run a hybrid front. Like, you will see these guys on the line a lot. You will see, obviously, Hutch, Ali McNeil when healthy, DJ Reader as a nose tackle, and then you have this other spot, right? And for years now, 2-3 years, the Lions have tried to get someone opposite of Aiden Hutchinson who is effective rushing the passer. They tried James Houston, and now Houston is way closer to the build and play style that players like James Pierce and Donovan Ezeraku are. For whatever reason, it didn't work out with James Pierce. But they move on to a Marcus Davenport. So, Marcus Davenport, 6'5", 6'6", long, edge setter, pocket crusher, that kind of thing. And the guys that we just talked about are not that. So if you want to employ the same style defensively that you did last year, then guys like Pierce and Izaraku might not be considered first-round talents for the Lions. Someone like Landon Jackson, I think, is much closer to who they want. 6'6", 264, excellent athletic score, 13 sacks and 25 tackles for loss over 2 seasons. So let's just average it out. 6.5 sacks. Landon Jackson has been one of the most productive pass rushers in the 2025 NFL draft on the surface. Still, his projection has some complications. At 6'6", 264 with near 34-inch arms, Jackson played some 4-eye at his position, particularly on early downs. He lacks the mass to function inside full-time in the NFL, but profiles well as an even front defensive end who can play support 5-tech and rush from a 7 or 9 wide. At his size, Jackson has elite explosiveness numbers, and that trait shows up on tape along with impressive size-adjusted flexibility. He needs to unlock more of his power, and pass rush consistency remains an emphasis. But in the right role, Jackson can be a high-floor, high-ceiling addition. That sounds so much more like what the Lions want, in my estimation. From everything that I've learned about how the Lions want to play defense on their front, that's almost the definition of the player that they want across from Aiden Hutchinson. But he's at 40, what is he, 43, 45. So you could almost trade down a full round and pick him up. So what do they do here? So what I think they do is I think they would go Walter Nolan. Aleem McNeil's obviously hurt. Dan Campbell has said so long as we get Aleem back at some point in the season, we should be good. Okay, so now I'm going to pause. We pick at 60. It is pick 42. So we could trade up 17 spots. Let's try it. We're going to trade with San Francisco. I will give you pick 60. I want pick 43. I will give you pick 102. Propose. Confirm. They don't like it. Propose trade. San Francisco. Confirm. 60, 102, 196 for 43. They don't like it. Resume draft. Amos, Benjamin Morrison. Okay. Let's try and trade up to 48. Now it's only 12 spots. We want to trade with Arizona. Confirm. I will give you pick 60. I will give you pick 102. They have accepted. Okay, so now I am going to take, at pick 48, I am going to take Landon Jackson. Okay, so now we don't pick until the 4th round. But I think I've addressed the two biggest needs on the Lions roster heading into next season, which is depth at defensive tackle and a potential starter at edge that can play opposite of Aiden Hutchinson, who does what they want their edge to do. So it's a guy. Now, I have some other guys that I would have loved to have drafted. Jaden Higgins would be an excellent X wide receiver. In fact, he's still on the board. Now he's not. So another player that I think the Lions could be very interested in is Josiah Stewart from Michigan. They have hosted him on a top 30 visit. They have had a virtual meeting with him. They saw him at the combine. They saw him at their local combine. They draft pretty heavily or frequently from their top 30 visit list. He's all over their top 30 visit list. In fact, he might be all over that list more so than a lot of other players. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was movement on day 2 to get him, and he would be backup Sam linebacker, backup Derek Barnes, I think. But we don't know. Don't know. One thing I think that the Lions could really do, he goes to the Rams, awful, is trade back. 28 might be a spot where you could find some movement. We all know how much the Lions like to trade up to target players that they like, but could they trade down and just play like a value game? So I think I would not mind drafting twice in the second and twice in the third if you can get that. Seems like a big ask, to be honest. Okay, so now we have, here we are near the end of round 4. We can continue to address the D-line and go Jordan Phillips. Jordan Phillips would be a developmental backup. I think he could be a backup this year and then potentially a nose tackle replacement for DJ Reader. So 6'1", 312, 6.76 is pretty good for a nose tackle. Jordan Phillips is one of the more naturally gifted defensive tackles in the class. He's well-proportioned, explosive, and young. The ferocity he shows in extension is admirable, and his horizontal athleticism was clear in 2024. Unfortunately, Phillips is a perfect example of how important it can be to stay in school and play more snaps at the collegiate level before making the jump. The Maryland nose tackle will almost certainly need a multi-year runway before becoming a difference maker in the NFL. From a physical perspective, there's practically nothing the interior defender can't accomplish. He's stout, violent, explosive, fluid, and endlessly balanced. Phillips will look incredible when given the green light to attack. If placed in a proactive, downhill, gap-penetrating scheme, he can be disruptive yet inconsistent early in his career. There's simply too much buffering at the snap to be a consistent run defender at the NFL level in year 1. Patience will be key for Phillips. In a few years' time, the reward could be a run defense anchored by a world beater. So, I mean, it sounds like, hey, what's up, Michael Lutchies? Good to see you, buddy. It sounds like Jordan Phillips is everything they hoped. It looks like he would be starting over with, Broderick Martin. So Broderick Martin has shown nothing in, what was this, his third year? And he might be coming to the end of his rookie deal. He might be willing to sign a cheap extension to stay in Detroit, but he has not panned out so far. He might make a leap. Kirby Joseph made a leap in his year 3. There's nothing that says that Broderick Martin can't do the same thing. I think it would be a surprise to many. But if you don't believe that, if you're in the Lions front office and you want to cut bait and start over, here's a guy that you could start over with. So, and it might just be something that, like, they're not all right with paying a nose tackle big money, right? And we know Aleem can play a little nose tackle. So you could still have, in some packages when he's healthy, like 2 years from now, if this is our draft, you could have Walter Nolan at 3-tech and Aleem playing nose tackle. And, that might work out in certain packages, right? Well, so if you want a more run-focused, world beater, as the scout who did the write-up called him, or he could be a world beater, then, here we are in the 4th round. You have a chance to draft and develop that guy. And in Detroit, where we have few roster spots available for starters right away in year 1, this seems like the kind of investment style of pick in the middle of the draft that could pay off big, and like, we trust the process, Brad Holmes, like all of that good stuff. Like, I would like to see those picks on these kinds of players. So I'm going to take them. So now we have basically drafted a defensive line. We have drafted a 3-tech, a nose tackle, and a strong side edge rusher. And, I would be looking at other positions like cornerback, except we're already 7 deep. at the cornerback position heading into the roster expanding up to 90. Running back, you're 4 deep. Tight end, you're 4 deep. And certainly like your fourth tight end isn't going to prevent you from taking it. Let's say just say Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland fell to the Lions in the first round. Like, it doesn't mean they can't draft those players because they have someone on the roster. You just cut your fourth guy and now you have another, first round starter. But it's certainly not a need. No one's going to go to the Lions in this draft and be like, oh, you guys got to pick up a tight end. Oh, you guys have to go get a running back. So if you have spots that are locked down the way that the Lions have locked down a good chunk of their roster at this point, now you can do things like have these developmental players. Okay, so here we are at pick 196. We're in the 6th round. We have some players on the board. I like Kyle McCord. The Lions have probably at least 3 quarterbacks on the roster. Obviously, Goff is the starter. Hendon Hooker is the backup. Kyle Allen could be there to push either Jake Fromm on the practice squad or Hendon Hooker for the backup role. So who else do we have here? We have Jeffrey Bassa from Oregon. He is a converted safety. He would be a backup will linebacker, so he would be competing with Malcolm Rodriguez. However, Malcolm Rodriguez is hurt right now. Stop me if this starts to sound familiar. Well, so Michael, to your point, you're starting to feel like Brad takes a safety in the first 4 rounds of this year. So if you follow their top 30 list, they have had both Jonas Sanker from Virginia Tech, or maybe the University of Virginia, and I believe his name is Jalen Reed from Penn State, have both, I believe, are the only safeties they have brought in for a top 30 visit. And I think that you're right. So like Brad Holmes has been adamant that they are going to re-sign Kirby Joseph. I think that he is the next guy that is going to get a contract if they don't do Hutch this year. And I can't imagine don't re-sign Brian Branch. So using a day 3 pick to get a backup for either one of them, especially when they can play special teams, and then you would pair up the timeline on those 2 contracts. So I really like that. And I'm hoping that you're right, because I think that, drafting a backup safety in this year's class is a really good idea. So right now, let's see. Let's just take defense, safety. It doesn't look like either of those 2 guys is still on the board. Boy, this is a lot of safeties. Wow, Akili Arnold's all the way down here. Jeez. What did you do to the guys that run this site? Okay, but let's see. I really like Craig Woodson. Like, drafting the 245th overall player at 196 is maybe not the best value, but I think that he could fill up one of those backup safety roles. Mitchell Evans could be a tight end that they say, all right, you're the 4th guy. You're the developmental Brock Wright when his contract's up, and you go. A lot of different options here. I do like Jacob Gideon from Western Michigan University. Congrats on WMU, by the way, for their Frozen 4 hockey win. First and I know who I'm going to take here. I know I just got done saying taking the 240th prospect at 196 is bad, but this kid is very interesting. Willie Lampkin is a guard from North Carolina. He's 5'10", 280, and that is really close to what he played at. Here's the thing. His height gives him excellent leverage, and he has the wingspan of a dude who is 6'6". So the only thing to not like about Willie Lampkin is just the fact that he's not the normal size of a guard. And if you compare him to Frank Ragnow, I bet it would be hilarious to see those 2 guys stand shoulder to shoulder together. But let's just read up on him a little bit here. After transferring from Coastal Carolina, Lampkin earned first-team All-American honors in 2024, highlighting his impressive performance. Known for his technical proficiency, Lampkin excels at engaging defenders and maintaining blocks, contributing significantly to his team's running game. Who likes to run the ball? The Detroit Lions. His athleticism is evident in his ability to move quickly to the second level and close in on defenders with agility. However, his physical attributes have raised concerns as he is smaller than typical NFL offensive linemen, which may affect his fit at the professional level. Lampkin's Senior Bowl performance at the Senior Bowl showed a mix of strengths and areas of needing improvement. Despite the size concerns, his combination of technical skills, athleticism, and experience make him an intriguing mid-round prospect for teams looking to bolster their offensive line depth. So I like this guy. This is probably a real big reach here, but this is also the team that traded a future pick in a different draft in order to take Giovanni Manu and Sione Vaki and then convert him from a safety to a running back. So I don't know that the Lions are so far out of the realm of possibility type of team that they couldn't go for this pick. And I see this guy as, let's give him 2 years in the weight room. And can he be your new Frank Ragnow? Can he be? What's up, Joseph? You're not late. I'm 24 hours early. So I like Lampkin. I think that he will be, yet again, another player the Lions could develop. And who knows what you have. Guys like Jordan Phillips, Willie Lampkin, technically proficient, play through the whistle kind of guys. So here, the guy that I like taking is Antoine Wells Jr. from Ole Miss. Dynamic and versatile wide receiver known for his physicality and playmaking ability. He excels in creating yards after the catch, utilizing his sturdy build and agility to break tackles and extend plays. Wells demonstrates reliable hands and body control, effectively tracking deep passes and securing contested catches. His experience across multiple offensive schemes highlights his adaptability and football intelligence. However, he occasionally struggles with concentration drops and could refine his route running precision to enhance separation. Wells' competitive nature and versatility make him a valuable asset in various offensive systems. So at 228, that kind of guy just screams Detroit Lions. If you had to melt St. Brown, Sam Laporta, and Jameson Williams into one receiver, it might look like Antoine Wells. So if he has concerns about his route running, I really like him playing with Amon-Ra St. Brown. If there's concerns about his drops, I really like him working with Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then when you hear things like excels at things like yards after the catch, making defenders miss, that is the reason that the Lions went out and got players like Sam Laporta, like David Montgomery, like Jahmyr Gibbs. They want to create broken tackles, missed tackles, yards after catch, explosive plays. Dan Campbell said he wanted to see more youth in the wide receiver room, which I don't know who he's talking about there. It seems as though St. Brown, Williams, Laporta, who's not in the wide receiver room, are all relatively young players. But, so who is he talking about? Tim Patrick? Tom Kennedy? I was really my eyebrows went up when I heard him say that. So, who knows? Sounds like, to me, if I had to guess at what he was talking about, it was that was his way of saying, all right, JMO, let's tighten everything up here. You know what? I wonder if he's still on the board. Yep, here we go. Ahmed Hassanaini, I don't know. Boise State edge rusher. Developmental Marcus Davenport. I like it. May not be. I saw some horrible drafts today for the Lions. James Pierce got mocked to him multiple times. Thought that was gross. So here we have what we did. We have Walter Nolan, Landon Jackson, Jordan Phillips, Willie Lampkin, Antoine Wells, and Ahmad Hassanein. I think that's pretty good. I think there are people who would freak out over the fact that we got Walter Nolan, like Mike's kid Danny, for one. I would love it if it was just like, here's your lines. Let's keep our lines healthy and good. So I'm a big proponent of winning on the lines. Let's go back to PFF. I absolutely despise PFF's big board that they have going here. Let's make this bigger. No, let's tone it down. Let's just work. So I just don't think it's accurate at all. It's the complete opposite of what we did at Pro Football Network. But we'll just go through a different board just to see how, if anything, changes, so to speak. Josiah, we tried to trade up for Josiah, and the Arizona Cardinals were not having it. The Arizona Cardinals were not having it. Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, Jalen Walker, Ezra Rocker, Jesus Christ, Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart, all gone. All gone. Wow, this is maybe the worst the board could have been for Detroit. Let's see who's available. I will not draft James Pierce. Omar Norman Lott is not a first-round pick. Kevin Winston Jr. is not a first-round pick. I like Nick Scorton, but here's the problem. This says that he weighs 285 pounds. He showed up at his pro day, I believe it was, at 257 pounds. If he's 257, I just don't know why. I just don't know that he can do the things the Lions want at the position that they're going to be drafting him. So it makes me not want to take him. Do we take Landon Jackson 11 picks early? Can we trade down? We can trade down to 44. That's too far. So now do we take Gray Zabel? Also probably Tyler Booker is still on the board. Yep, there he is. Donovan Jackson's still on the board. I will take Gray Zabel and play him at guard. Pass block is better than run block. That's what the Lions, I think, want. Zone and gap grades are both excellent. Lions run more zone than gap, but they do run gap. Excellent pass blocking guard. Has played right tackle, left guard, and left tackle. Could probably also play center. So the way that I look at it is that he is probably the new Graham Glasgow. Zabel is a 5-position lineman who brings everything but elite arm length to the position. He is an easy projection to start at center or guard for a primarily zone blocking scheme, but he is well-rounded enough to be run game versatile. Welcome to Detroit, Gray Zabel. I also really don't like drafting a guard in round 1 of this draft because I think that the players that fit what Detroit wants to do on the edge, there goes Tony Malowell, are going to be roughly gone by the time. See, Jared Ivey even is one of them. I do not like this kid, Oluwafemi Oladejo. He is an off-ball linebacker that has played 10 games at edge, and people are like, ooh. And I just don't see it. So I can't draft Tate Ratledge because I took Gray Zabel, so don't make that mistake, Drew. I could take Josiah Stewart. Can we trade down? Yes, but it's with Minnesota, and it's down a whole round. CJ West is a player that I might like on day 2. Yeah, but there's just no more edges. There's Jordan Phillips again. Ashton Gelati is a player that I like, and I would love to have him, but I almost would like to do something like if the Lions were to pick up, we have a lot of, you would take Josiah at 60. Something from Michael Lutchies. Not sure what he was typing. I will draft Josiah Stewart. There you go, buddy. I'm gonna get an absolute raked over the coals for that pick on the grading. because he was so low on the board, but the Lions could easily take him in the second round. They've had him all over their top 30 visits. Butt messaged. Sure. It happens. Okay, here we are. End of round 3. Our first compensatory pick from Aaron Glenn. I can take Ashton Gelati if I want to. I can take Kyle Williams if I want to, which I think is a real possibility for Detroit. I can take R.J. Mickens to be a backup safety. Coverage grade, run defense grade. So this guy is a backup Kirby Joseph. 6 foot, 210. Wow, doesn't even have the write-up in yet. We're 10 days from the draft. There's Jonas Sanker. Coverage, so he's just a... Lions seem to like this guy. 6'1", 210. Once again, they don't have the write-up in. We're 10 days from the draft. They have their draft guide out, and they don't have the write-up in the... I'm going to take Gelati here because he's the size, weight, and speed of the prototypical edge that they like. Deion Walker, the nose tackle from Kentucky, I've heard has some injury. Oh, I'm just going to take Kyle Williams. Welcome to Detroit. Called like splendioitis, splendiosis, something like that. And basically what it is that his lower back, when he goes to extend and block or like get his hands on offensive linemen, he is moving his lower back laterally, and that is creating degeneration in either his joint or his spine. And I've heard that like it's like they said something like 20%. I'm just taking Mickens here. 20% chance that it doesn't get any worse. What was that? 20% chance it gets worse. But that's the floor. So like there's like a 1 in 5 chance, like at the best, that he just doesn't get any worse. And there's no way that Malachi Moore is here in round 7. 0. I don't know who that is. Ooh, we ran out of people I like real fast. I think I'll be the only Lions fan not crashing out if Brad doesn't take an edge in the top 100. So what does that draft look like? Now safety? Take a big edge. Now safety. So about the only way I look at edge as about the only position on the roster that a rookie can even challenge for as a start. As long as they get pass rush guru Josiah, edge is no big deal. That's a lot of faith, Joseph. Sorry, I get dry mouth, so I got to keep drinking water. But what does a no edge through day 2 draft look like? Interior offensive lineman, X wide receiver, and what's the other one? What would the other one be? Interior defensive line? I guess my issue with not taking an edge in the first 2 days, top 100 picks, in the first 2 days would be that is an area that they have edge across from Aiden Hutchinson is a position that they have been looking to address now. This is at least the second year. Signed Marcus Davenport last year. He got hurt. Going to re-sign him. Okay. Josh Pascal is going into year 4. They have not extended him. He has not distinguished himself as a guy that I think has claimed any particular roster spot. He's just a good depth player. John Kaminsky is retired. And all of these guys are very similar. They're all 6'5", 6'4", plus near 270 pounds or heavier. So if you don't take players who fit that body type, you are running out of players who do the kind of stuff that they can do. And the one thing that I think that I can't get past when it comes to that type of thing is that the Lions have consistently drafted that particular body type. And because it gives them flexibility. If you need to play Josh Pascal on the inside, if you want to have a varied front, you want to have a pass rush front. If the board doesn't align with getting an edge, I don't want Brad to force it. We have the best talent evaluators in the NFL. So, yeah, maybe we do have the best talent evaluators in the NFL. But, I guess where I would argue, so, if they're, so I guess we're talking about at 28, right? I don't care if the Lions decide to go up and jump 6 spots, 8 spots, 12 spots to go and get a player. The player I want them to draft is Michael Williams from Georgia, who is a good run defender, who has the ability to develop into a good pass rusher. And playing against Penei Sewell with Aiden Hutchinson, I have a hard time believing that if you're a good worker with the right attitude, you can't develop into a decent pass rusher in the NFL. So here's so Michael, here's my worry with that kind of statement. So obviously you're not advocating that they force a need, right? Even if it's a perceived need. So that lends me to believe that you're talking about best player available, right? So if we go best player available, let's say Colston Loveland is on the board and he's the consensus best player on the board. The Lions consider him to be the best player on the board. I think there's a world where you could convert him into an X wide receiver. Might be a slow one, but I think there's a world where that exists. I think that you could say Colston Loveland might be the new Tim Patrick. And his primary job is blocking tiny corners and going out and doing jump balls and that kind of stuff. But I also don't think, I think that the Lions have too much of a plan in order to say we're just doing best player available. And I know that's probably not what you were alluding to, but if it means that the top 100 picks look something like tight end, safety, guard, I don't really know how much better the Lions can be. One of those positions might see them getting playing time in year 1. Maybe more. Hopefully there's no injury that forces one of those people to become a starter as a rookie. But with so few needs, I think that it almost lends to what Brad has done, which is to target certain positions in the draft. And so last year we see Terrion Arnold, in my opinion, slip down the board. The Lions trade up. I can't remember if it was 4 or 5 spots to take him. I think you're going to see something like that. I think that if there's somebody drafting 22 through 27 and the Lions feel like that guy's on the board and that's quote unquote their guy, someone that they have as a first rounder, I think you'll see a trade. But I think you're going to, the issue that I have with best player available, or in our case, best Lion available, is if that guy's a middle linebacker, just for the sake of argument, what do? Do you play him out of position because he's the best line available? Team need simply factors into every other, or team need, like positional value, team need, factors into every one of these philosophies, whether it's best player available, draft for need, draft for position of value. Like they all bleed into each other. Like it's not three separate circles of philosophies. It's like one Venn diagram, and we just don't understand how much overlap there is. So I think the Lions need to come out of the first round with either a defensive lineman, whoever that is. If you want to go 3-tech like Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, they are Aleem McNeil insurance. Then you can, like when McNeil is healthy, you can go, he can play the nose tackle at some point. You can have the other 3-tech in there. Yeah. Well, I think to be fair, I don't think anybody does pure BPA. And like, here's why I say that. Like, let's say the Kansas City Chiefs are drafting, 32 last year or whatever, 2 years ago. And they're up on their pick, and the best player on the board is a quarterback. They're not taking that guy. So then best player available, I think Brad invests resources in scouting the team needs, but doesn't force a pick based on needs. Well, I mean, I'm going to have to agree with you, but like, I guess what I would say is the Lions had so many needs when he took over that he could draft anyone he wanted, and they were probably going to get playing time, right? So first draft, he takes Penei Sewell. A lot of teams should have probably taken Penei Sewell. Penei Sewell has locked down right tackle, right? Next year, the Jags idiotically pass on Aiden Hutchinson. And Trayvon Walker is not a bust. I mean, he's a good player. He's going to get a second contract with the Jags. But Aiden Hutchinson is better. And they passed on him because Trent Baalke hates Jim Harbaugh. And the Lions got him, and that was a clear need. Hit a home run, right? Okay. Year 3, you go Gibbs, Campbell, Laporta, Branch. Were those needs? I would say no. Did they need a running back? No, they had David Montgomery. Did they need a linebacker? Maybe. At that time, you had Barnes and Anzalone. Didn't have a true Mike, right? Both Anzalone and Barnes can play Mike. Didn't have a true Mike. So you could argue it's a need. Tight end. They had Hawkinson, traded Hawkinson in season, then they drafted new Hawkinson. Safety. They had Kirby Joseph, but they didn't really have. I don't remember who was playing across from Kirby Joseph before Brian Branch. But now you have, they took versatile playmakers is what they took. It's a great draft for DL, so that works in our favor. I don't think Brad will force it, and I don't want him to. Define what you consider forcing it. I'd rather have another stud linebacker than a below average rookie. Oh, I would. I don't think that you're going to get a below average rookie edge in the first round. And so the only linebacker that I think is worth drafting in round 1, when I say linebacker, I mean off-ball linebacker. I don't mean a 3-4 edge rusher. Like James Pierce and Donovan Izaraku are not linebackers. Their job is to rush the pass rusher. So their job is to rush the passer. Jahad Campbell from Alabama is the only guy, the only off-ball linebacker I think I would draft in round 1. So let's say he's on the board, and it's between him and a below-average edge prospect. You draft Jahad Campbell, right? So you are happy, right? Because Brad didn't force a need. Where does he play? Where does he play? I mean, more than likely, he is sitting behind Alex Anzalone. And then next year, when Anzalone's contract's up, he takes over Anzalone's job. Okay. I mean, I am fine with taking players at positions when there's a clear developmental road for them to get to the field, like what they did with Broderick Martin, Giovanni Manu, Sione Vaki, Ennis Rakestraw, like all of that. Like, I have no problem with doing that. Like, let's get the guy in the system and see how he grows. But in round one, you had better get somebody that's going to contribute. And I have a hard time in this class being as deep as it is on D line, thinking that there's going to be any below average prospects. I mean, Derek Harmon could be there. Nick Skirton could be there. Shamar Stewart could be there. You know, and any of these guys, I think in year one, are probably not having a big impact. I mean, I just don't think that we're going to get a player at 28 on this team with its roster that is going to see significant playing time outside of an injury. So I think the best you could hope for is a guy that can push for snaps in camp. And I think the two positions on the roster that allow for that to happen are guard and then edge, depending on how big a need you think there is at either. Here's what I would do. I would take an edge at 28, almost regardless. You know, if that means it's Donovan Ezeraku and he's like an undersized guy who's not really doing what the Lions want with the position, I would probably still take him. If it's Landon Jackson, 15 picks too early per consensus, I would probably do that. But I don't think there's a clear weakness on this roster. So, but I have no idea. I've given up trying to be able to predict what Brad Holmes is going to do. I just want to analyze what he does. And it's going to be a lot of fun, but also at the same time, like, so like what kind of edges are you not certain about that'll be there at 28? Like, if Nick Skirton's there, do you see something in these guys that gives you like, oh, these guys are not going to work out? Like if Derek Harmon could be there, Walter Nolan could be there, and probably not Nolan. You know, or Ezeraku, I won't say Pierce because I don't believe in the work ethic. I believe that the work ethic thing is a problem. But like, I just don't see the red flags in that position, in either of those position groups, that would lead me to believe there's an issue getting, like you're drafting someone, like you're spending too high of a pick on a player. I don't know if I'm thinking about something and then trying to say something else, but like, I don't think Brad's going to take a guy unless he's convinced that guy can help the Lions. He could be wrong. He has not been wrong much. But I think even if he is wrong, it's like the guy's career looks like Ife Melifonwu. Like, you have stretches where you really helped and you can see why you got drafted. But for some reason, something holds you back. And like, even if, like, let's say that Brad does take, let's say he reaches for a player like Landon Jackson. And like Jackson just isn't developing the right way. Like the worst thing that you've done is you've drafted another Josh Pascal. Is that the worst thing? I can hear the argument like, oh, it's a first round pick. You'd better get your value for it. But like drafting a linebacker is not going to get you that value, unless he becomes one of the best linebackers in the NFL. And even like Jack Campbell this year was like the 12th best linebacker in the NFL per PFF grade. So, however, we're 2 years going into 3 years on Jack Campbell's career. So, and he certainly didn't play great his rookie year. He's out of position, just didn't play well, and he's not a Sam linebacker. So, I guess I'm just curious, like, what worries you about the edge? Or I guess I'll expand it out to the defensive lineman class. So, and to Joseph's point, go guard at 28 then. I firmly believe that the offensive line is the number one unit on this team, more than anything else. Anything else. This team needs a good offensive line to function and do what they want, to enact their game plan. So you got to keep it strong. So, but I also don't think that they're going to pay a guard. They may not pay a guard a second contract. Or we'll have to see where the other contracts on the team are when there's a guy that's like, no, you really need to sign. I mean, there were people who were pounding their fists on table that Jonah Jackson was worth top shelf money, and he just isn't. Right? And the Lions knew that because they had him in their building. I am underwhelmed by the late pass rush options, but I still think they are the best value need for the team. Brian, when you say late pass rush options, do you mean in round one? Or do you mean in the entire draft? Because if I would disagree if you're talking about round one. I would agree if you're talking about the entire draft. And now I have no one in the chat. The entire chat is gone. It says live viewers 0. Now it's 1. We'll have to see. Joseph Ostin says, Josiah for me is the guy, unique skill set. Shockingly, Joseph Ostin is a Josiah Stewart fan. Well, Joseph Ostin, let's do this. Let's go to Pride of Detroit. And let's go to their top 30 visit tracker. Meh. All right, so here are the players the Lions have brought in for visits. Land Larson, running back, UC Davis. I think this guy has a chance of going to the Lions at some point, 6th or 7th round. Matthew Golden, interesting. Very fast wide receiver, according to his 40 time at the Combine. We have a fast wide receiver who may not be on the team. Isaac Tesla, giant guy, like 6'5", really big. Gray Zabel, we know. Dylan Fairchild, we know. The other guard from Georgia. Anthony Belton, tackle from NC State. Could he be converted to guard? Shamar Stewart. Oh, Josiah Stewart. Here we are from Michigan. Hugh Robinson. These two guys are the same. They would play the same position for the Detroit Lions. Backup Sam linebacker. Derek Harmon, 3-tech. Tyleek Williams, nose tackle. Jahad Campbell, I like. Chaz Chambliss, linebacker, Georgia. Ruben Hippolyte, Maryland. Maxwell Hairston, Kentucky, cornerback. Interesting visit. Jonas Sanker, backup safety. Jalen Reed, backup safety. Virtual visits. Josiah Stewart. Oh, here we go. Lions local pro day invitees. Josiah Stewart, Michigan. So he's literally in 3 of the 4 lists. So I have I am getting to the point where I'm like, the Lions are going to find a way to draft Josiah Stewart. Opportunity. And OT in this class. So you think that Taylor Decker's career in Detroit is not he just signed an extension, didn't he? I like the Jackson pick. I've seen him play a lot over the years. Jackson. Who? First round backups. This makes no sense. Well, Dr. Detroit, where are they going to play? What first round starter can the Detroit Lions draft? I'm very curious to get your take. Brian, the guys that fit the physical profile are not impressive pass rushers, and the ones that can pressure the QB are the sizes that don't play more than half the snap. Landon Jackson. I got you. Decker and Ragnow nearing the end. Interesting. Let's do this. I kind of hate this website now because of all the ads. Oh my God. It feels like I'm being assaulted with their ads. Oh my God. There's an ad. Taylor Decker. He is 32. Okay. So past 30 certainly lends itself to your opinion. He has guaranteed money at 0 after next season. Well, I guess during next season, right? So this upcoming season is the last one with guaranteed money in it. So if you're the Lions, you can say, we'll cut you and save $2.5 million. But he probably plays on that deal. 2027, okay, now we're saving 17 as opposed to 6. 2020 at the end of the 2026 season, you could certainly see Decker not on the roster, but I think he's probably on the roster through the 2026 season. Time to go cheaper. Well, Ragnow's had the toe for 2 years, and I think he's just the tough son of a bitch that like is just going to play through it. And I don't know that I agree that Decker is slipping. So this is Decker through the ages. 16, great. 17, not so good. 2018, not so good, getting better. 19, pretty good, getting better. 2020, really good. Okay, now we're going down. 75, 74. 2023, 81. And last year, 77. And like, I think that he has graded out as, let's go to tackles. And I know this is PFF and that it doesn't necessarily mean anything. So I don't want to hear it. So he was the 22nd best tackle per grade, and he was, I guess, tied for 22nd. Obviously, Penny's way up here. But I don't know that, like, I don't know that you're going to find he isn't going to be worth the money. He's worth the same money for like the next 2 or 3 years. Like, and as a percentage of the cap, he's paid like a top 5 center. Positions. Left tackle. He is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th highest paid left tackle in football. So like, here's how I see it. He might be slipping, but his slip is still he's a top 25 tackle in the NFL. He's the 10th highest paid left tackle. So you're talking about, I think he's paid exactly like how he's performing. Like, I think that those two things are aligned. So I also don't think that the Lions can get what he is worth now from a rookie. His slip is almost last in the NFL. What does that mean? His slip is almost last. He's just I don't think he's nearly as bad as you think he is. I mean, okay, so let's do that. Let's draft one. Let's I guess I'm still on PFF site. Let's go simulator. Good fucking internet. I live in the middle of Portage, Michigan, and my internet will go out when I do this. I think this is a test year for Decker. Well, that's exactly what I was going to do, Joseph. I was going to see if Connerly was on the board at 28. Okay, here we go. We'll do one round for the Lions. Go. Start. So let's just see. I mean, this is obviously like a really small sample size of one, right? Okay, so let's go O tackles. Josh Connerly's on the board. All right, so he's the best one that I think the Lions could expect to see. Okay, he's super young. He's 6'4", 315, 21 years of age. I like all those things. Very good movement skills for a player who also brings adequate size and length to the position. His game can lack some anticipation and strength, but if he continues to improve in those areas, he holds a skill set to be a reliable NFL starter, one who can be impactful for his own blocking team. That is the Detroit Lions. So let's just draft him. So I don't care about whatever the grade that PFF says, C+, whatever. So that doesn't matter. I think the point is that, like, unless you are drafting in like the top 15 of a class, you're probably not getting the kind of tackle that like Taylor Decker is right now. And like the NFL has just shown that out year in and year out that like if you want an excellent tackle, you probably have to take them in the top half of the first round. Can you give me examples? Move up? Okay. So how much are you willing to move up for a tackle who's not going to play for the next 2 years? Because so second round pick, we have pick, we can't use dudes. Well, I think that there are places that you can use those guys. You want to move up into the top 15? Okay. So to move into the top 15 from 28. Okay. I know some of you guys probably don't like the Jimmy Johnson trade chart, but it's like the one chart that I think all teams can say we'll at least use this one because it's like unlike, if they have their own internal ones, you don't know which pick to use. Okay, so you want to move to pick 10. That's the Atlanta Falcons. 1,050 points is pick 15. The Lions are at 660. So what is that? 340, 390. So the 390 would be giving up a mid-second round pick to get to 15. So the Lions would need to give up their second round pick. 390 would need to give up their second round pick and their fourth round pick. So in order to move up 13 spots, you are giving up your first, your second, and your fourth round pick. So that seems like JMO didn't either. Didn't either what? Didn't start right away? 15 to 18. Yeah, so you're talking like somewhere between your first and second to move up to 15, or maybe a little less to move up to like 18 or whatever. Say someone slides. Well, you know what? To be fair to you, Dr. Detroit, there are tackles like Josh Simmons, Kelvin Banks, who might make it past 20. But you are putting so okay. I think the Lions are comfortable. Okay, how do I want to start this? 10 spots will cost a third and a fifth. Maybe. I think it's probably going to be a little more expensive. And Brad tends to overpay when he moves up. He doesn't get great value on his trades when he decides he wants to go up. But he's willing to do it because he wants to go get one of the guys that he likes. Yeah, so the Jimmy Johnson scale says, yeah, you probably have to pay a little more, but like that's fine. So it's somewhere in that ballpark, right? 3/5, 2 and a 4, something like that. But if you go and you get a Josh Simmons, or if Josh Connerly's there for you, yeah, you're right. Every draft is different. It's a good point. You're not playing that guy for 2 years. So to the JMO point, right? I think that's different. He couldn't play in his first year. He was hurt. Well, you might get a superstar in this draft. You don't know. Like, I mean, Brad has found superstars all over the draft. So, I mean, I think that Michael Lutchys was making this point earlier. Best Lion available. You know, so like it may not be necessarily like you're just finding the ultimate athlete or something to that effect, like a Travis Hunter, for example. Josiah. But it might be something like the person who's the best fit for what the Lions are trying to accomplish. Like, is Josh Simmons with the Lions the best version of what Josh Simmons can be? Players rated as a superstar? Okay, I see what you're saying. So I would be curious to know then how you would define a superstar, because in this draft I have 2 of them, and that's Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. But like, is Kirby Joseph a superstar? I mean, I think that if you look back at this past year, just that year, you would say yes. But it took 3 years for that to happen, right? 1, 2, and then he became really, really good. So with JMO and the big jump, the 20 pick move that they made for JMO, they knew he wasn't going to play his first year. The second year he messed up and got suspended. And I think that as a 4th receiving option, I think that 1,000-yard receiving 1,000-yard season from like your 3rd or 4th receiving option is really, really good. Right. He's not a first-year starter. To your point, he's not a first-year starter. Yes, that's true. The reason I'm pointing that out is that I think there is a difference between sitting a guy, especially in round 1, who is not injured and doesn't have a clear path to the field. Well, so to your point, Dr. Detroit, I don't believe that the Lions have a clear need at any position that you draft a rookie and you just play them, right? Nothing like what they did with Penei Sewell or Aiden Hutchinson, that type of thing. I do think there are positions where there is a path to seeing almost starter level playing time in this season. And like the one position where I believe that there is a path to starter level snaps is edge across from Aiden Hutchinson, potentially guard. What I would do at guard, I would shift Graham Glasgow back over to right guard. I would start Christian Mahogany at left guard. And then if you draft Gray Zabel or something like that, you have a camp battle. So if they drafted somebody like Derek Harmon, I do think that there would be a path to starter level snaps, even though I think that Levi Nuzurike is probably the starting 3 tech on this team at the start of the season. If we sign the defensive edge that we let go back, then I agree with you, but they're still late on defensive. So if they sign Smith, what's his name? What's his name? Oh my God. The guy we traded for from Cleveland. I cannot believe that I can't remember his name. He's backup Aiden Hutchinson. He's not the dude across from Aiden Hutchinson. Like when Aiden went down, they went to go get another guy that can do something close to what Aiden can do, right? Because they want that type of thing, those traits on the defense. Zeus Smith. That's cute. So when it comes to like the Za'Darius, thank you very much. That's right, Za'Darius Smith. But when it comes to the guy that plays on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, wherever that is, if he wants to switch sides or what have you, they want someone who looks like Marcus Davenport. 6'6", 270, long arms, sets an edge, crushes a pocket, pushes a pocket, that type of thing. And like I agree that any rookie on this team is without an injury occurring is going to have a hard time finding starter level snaps. But I think that guard and edge and maybe even like 3 technique are the ones that they have a chance to do that. Who is that guy in the draft that is also a Boy Scout? Well, so that's the hard part for me to answer, right? Because I don't know their history. So here's what I'll say about like the culture fit, right? Because I think that's what you're alluding to. Mike Green from Marshall has 2 sexual assault claims, one in high school and one in college against him. I think that takes him off the Lions board. James Pierce from Tennessee has I don't really know what you would call it, work ethic red flag, where his teammates, I think it was said his teammate or his coaches says he'd be in his apartment and they were on the field practicing and working on stuff. That's not going to fly in Allen Park. So Brad ain't going to get up to Carter, even though he could if he wanted to. Right. So like, that's a great point. So like Jalen Carter had character concerns, and I think that he would have been a wonderful fit in Detroit, but they didn't take him when they had the opportunity. So I think that's a lot of sense. So I think that somebody who's likely to be there, the one thing that I've seen even 10 days out from the draft is no one knows where the defensive linemen are going to go. There's too much. They're all too similar to have any kind of consensus on these are clearly the first and then second and then third and the fourth best edge rushers. And if you eliminate the guys like James Pierce and Mike Green who just don't fit the Lions profile, then I think you get down to guys like Micah Williams, Shamar Stewart, who they brought in Shamar Stewart for a top 30 visit. Michael Williams, I think, is the definition of the guy that they want. Nick Scorton was, his weight says that he played at 280, but he came in at his pro day at 257. So where do they want him to play? Is it 260? Did he give up any power to get down to that weight? Who knows? But that puts him closer to guys like Pierce and Green than it does like Michael Williams and Shamar Stewart. What about a Graham? I assume you mean Kenneth Grant and Graham. Why am I not seeing this? Because it's on the tip of my tongue. Graham. Nose tackle. Mason Graham. Oh, well, Mason Graham will not be. Mason Graham will not be available for the Detroit Lions. He will go in the top 10. I'm almost certain. So let's talk about Kenneth Grant. So I have to be real careful when I talk about Kenneth Grant because I'm a Michigan fan and he went to Michigan. Graham plays next to Grant. He's going higher than Grant. Yeah, I completely agree. Right. I think that Mason Graham is either going at 5 or at 7, and that's it. Like that's as low as he goes. If he got to San Francisco at 12, I can't imagine that they would pass on him. I love the idea of Kenneth Grant. I love the idea of Kenneth Grant on this team. I I think I think to next season, this in 2026, the year after this upcoming season, if they took Kenneth Grant at 28, you could have a starting line of something like Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil, Kenneth Grant, and then your rookie edge guy or whatever. Or you sign a veteran on the free agent wire like they did this last year. I work with his cousin. I've had lunch with, oh, well, that's cool. Okay, if he's top 10, I know Brad might move up to. Boy, if he moves up to top 10, you're talking about trading our first round pick next year. Grant may not be there at 28. Yeah, I agree with you. Like if they picked Kenneth Grant, I would literally like freak out when we do our broadcast live during the first round. I would love that. One thing that kind of worries me about that is that they have not brought him in for a top 30 visit. He might have been at their local pro day, but they tend to draft from their top 30 visits pretty heavily. Yeah, I agree with you. If they took Kenneth Grant, I would be pretty stoked. But I think I would also be pretty stoked if they took Derek Harmon or Walter Nolan, Nick Scorton, Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart. I think that I would probably feel pretty similar about all those guys being drafted because I guess one other thing that we haven't really talked about, he was bummed about not getting a top 30 visit. Is that what you mean? Somebody should call Brad and be like, hey, this kid wants to be in Detroit. So, but I'm sure they know that. They're not going to be on Zarikis and Pascal's. Okay. Well, I mean, Pascal certainly hasn't worked out. Henri Zarike's been hurt for so long. He had a good season last year. I mean, Josh Pascal's not bad. He's not great. But I mean, like, I would also say that Jack Campbell has been good, but not great. Grant's from Chicago. Makes sense. But I mean, like, I think the fact that the Lions are sitting here at 28 and there's no clear first round starter that they need to draft is a achievement unlocked for Brad Holmes. Like, there are very few teams. Well, I mean, you're also taking guys at 28. I mean, if you're taking guys this late in the round, shouldn't you just be happy that like they're a double, like ground rule double? Like they're good players, they work hard, they don't fuck up, but they're not Aaron Donald. There's only one Aaron Donald. But here's the other thing though, dude, is that like I don't think Kirby Joseph's a superstar, but he was the best safety in the NFL this last year. Like, is that who Brad could draft at 28? Oh, you just questioned the free agency stuff. Okay. Well, I like the way that Brad approaches free agency, and the reason I say that is I'm not a huge fan of the like signing guys to prove it deals for 1 year, like Emmanuel Mosley, Marcus Davenport. Like I get why he does it, like it's a good value, but they sign their own guys. They don't go out. I mean, I know they did it this year with DJ Reed, but like I'm happy that they're not out there like spending $300 million in guaranteed money, in free agency and that kind of stuff, because it means that like the talent's on the roster and you're paying it. You're paying the talent that you already have. So it's good, and like, I do think that the Lions are getting close probably in the next couple of years, 2-3 years, where they could start developing compensatory picks. I'm not impressed with his free agency. Oh, you're not impressed with Brad Holmes's free agency moves. Sorry, it's unimpressive to me. I don't want him to be a drunk sailor in free agency, and he did a good job replacing our cornerback. Agreed. But he's had a deaf ear on that player opposite of Hutch. Is there a guy that you're thinking about that he missed on that makes you feel that way? I know my buddy Mike that does the show with me was all about trading for like Myles Garrett, which would have been fun to see. I just didn't think that it was feasible to do. Oh, water is so good. You know, but he's had a deaf ear on that player opposite of Hutch. What if it's just the last thing that he's had an opportunity to address? How can 5 other teams pick these players up, still make in the playoffs every year, but we can't? I don't know. I'm not buying. I would love to know which players. If you have any examples, that would be cool. So let me see if I can. I don't think that's what he's saying. Obviously, if you're a GM and you're not actively trying to make your roster better, you're doing a terrible job, right? You get fired. Anybody good enough to be across from Hutch is going to be expensive and much softer. I'm not mad that he hasn't blown. Well, I mean, like, okay, hang on a second here. Let's look at what Marcus Davenport did in like the 4 games that he played last year. Okay, let's just take a look. Davenport, Marcus Davenport. Oh my God, look at the hair. I didn't know he had a hair like that. That's crazy. Defense. All right, let me come back over here. Let me share my screen. Everyone, hang on. Just wait a minute. Now I come back to here. Now I add the thing to the stage. Okay, here's Marcus Davenport. I will go and make this bigger because that's what I yell at Mike to do. Okay. He played 90 snaps. He had 7 pressures and 1 sack, 3 hits. Did they have pass rush win rate on here? No. Not impressive grades, but I mean, like, he's played 200 snaps in the last 2 years. He played 90 snaps. He had 1 sack. If let's just say, for the sake of argument, please do not yell at me, that is representative of his production over the course of the whole year. So let's say he's never played more than 530 snaps. So let's just do this. Let's say 550. Let's say he got really healthy this year. Divide by 90 is 6.1. So let's say he played the whole year, and that opposite of Hutch, he had 42 pressures and 6.5 stats. PFF doesn't give half sack grade totals, so we can't add half points or whatever. So, like, let's just say that the guy what does the guy opposite of Hutchinson have to do to be quote unquote worth it? Because I have an answer to that. I don't think that he has to do much at all. I think that the Detroit Lions want to build a wall away from Aiden Hutchinson, and then they want Aiden Hutchinson to push the quarterback into that wall. I think that's what they want. So, like, what if that's the plan, and I'm not crazy, I might be crazy. Ali McNeil has 6 sacks, Reeder has like 4 sacks, and the guy across from Aiden Hutchinson has 6 sacks. That's 16 sacks. So like the Lions could be responsible for like 28 to 32 sacks over the course of the season. That's basically 2 a game. I'd love that. But Okay, so the guy that hurt Aiden or that hurt Marcus Davenport didn't make a dirty play. He just chopped down on his arm. He just happened to get hurt. I've torn my bicep throwing a branch while I was clearing brush with my dad, and just part of the branch was stuck under a tractor, and so I started to push it to about there, and then the branch couldn't go any further. I didn't know that, and I kept pushing, and it just tore it. And now I'm not in the kind of shape that Marcus Davenport's in, but I'm just saying, like, I think it's the human body is like surprisingly fragile. So listening in, I had to walk across the house. I had to walk across the house to see that hairline. Can I get my hairline? This? No, I'm not showing you my hairline. It's disgusting. Um, I I don't know if he was intentional. I mean, I do think that NFL players try and hurt each other, but the hidden question in the edge talk is how much will Hutch improve the numbers for the rest of the line? So like that's an excellent question. And like we may never have that answer because like I think that we saw what the line looked like without Aiden Hutchinson. Didn't look nearly as good, right? Even schlubs like me, who do you have a point? Even like people like me who don't really know the X's and O's of the games were like, ooh, this is different. So, but maybe it's not quantifiable. But I think that to get back to like Dr. Detroit's point, I think that the Lions have a very specific profile for the players they want to play across from Aiden Hutchinson. They look like Marcus Davenport. I think the challenge for Brad Holmes has been when has he had the opportunity to add I understand. It's not a crazy I'm not way far out there on that limb. I get it. When has Brad had the opportunity to address the player across from Aiden Hutchinson? And then who would we be willing to give up on? Not after we know how they have played, but when we are taking that player. Like if he had the opportunity to address the guy across from Aiden Hutchinson and not sign DJ Reed this year, well, next year are we going to say, oh, he should have signed Josh Sweat as opposed to DJ Reed? Or if it was, oh, they shouldn't have drafted Terry and Arnold. They should have drafted an edge that looks like Marcus Davenport. Are we going to say that in 2 years? Like that's the thing. Well, that's kind of like my weak spot, dude, because like I very much wanted Jalen Carter. I didn't give a shit about the driving stuff, which Georgia players apparently do all the time. Like they're still doing it. Now Jalen Carter there's been no problems with him in the one he's been in the NFL. So am I. I mean, like I don't know any Lions fan that's like, oh, we could have done a better job in the draft, So, and it's when you draft guys like Penei Sewell and Aiden Hutchinson, like that's not hard to do. They just have to be available to you. But like it's the Kirby Joseph, it's the Amon-Ra St. Browns, it's the Derek Barnes, it's the Malcolm Rodriguez, it's the it's the trading back up for Brian Branch, it's the drafting Sam Laporta at the top of the second round, it's taking a chance on a Jameer Gibbs, like it's all this other stuff. He just so happens to be right. Just I mean, he may not be batting 1,000, but like he might be batting 650, 700. Like in all seriousness, like if you went back and just looked at his picks, like first through 7 each year, or just probably like for day 2 picks, like he's probably batting way higher than you're supposed to. You don't give him credit for that. Well, he made it. I mean, um, no one knew Micah Parsons was going to be that good of an edge because he played off-ball linebacker at Penn State. So, but if he was doing at Penn State what he was doing at, if he was doing what he was doing at Penn State, what he's doing now, it would have been 633. It would have been a discussion. Like, who do you take here? Do you take the edge rusher? Do you take we still had Decker. So you were drafting Penny Sewell to be a right tackle. They did. It turns out he's the best right tackle in the NFL. So makes a lot of sense. It's not crazy. Certainly, it's not a stretch to see that a player like Penny Sewell would make an excellent tackle, or that Aiden Hutchinson would make an excellent defensive end. I agree with you there, but like, you also have to be the guy that pulls the trigger, right? And like, I think that's the thing about Brad Holmes that I respect most of all, is that the dude knows who he wants to draft and is willing to go get that player. And the thing that just boggles my mind so much is he's right about those players. And like, I never believed in culture because I watched a bunch of Lions teams that never had it when I was a kid. Right. I mean, but if like the Bengals had taken Penny Sewell at 5, it would have been a no-brainer. And if the Jaguars had taken Aiden Hutchinson at 1, it would have been a no-brainer. So, I mean, none of the teams in front of the Lions and those two, and granted, the second one was only one team, was ahead of us, but you still got to turn the card, is all I'm really saying. So, yeah, they fell to us. Does that make the decision easier? Sure. You have to be the one that says, we're going to take that player? Yeah, you do. So, like, that matters more to me, that mentality, in, like, 2022 when it was Gibbs and then Campbell and then Laporta and then Branch. And I'm sitting here hating every single one of those picks except Brian Branch, who was the 4th guy that we took. And but I have to eat some crow because Gibbs has been fantastic. Campbell was like a top 15 linebacker this year. Okay, he should be if he's going to be taken at 18 overall. And he could still get better. He's still getting better. Laporta had a great rookie year, less great sophomore effort, but I'm almost convinced that he was hurt at some point this season. Brad got Campbell and Laporta and still got. I mean, like, that's just it. Like, Brian Branch would have been a first-round pick if he hadn't run a 4.5 40. I'm convinced that that's what happened. And at some point, you just have to say it doesn't matter. Like, the dude just can play football, so we don't put him in foot races with really speedy wide receivers. Like, it turns out he's excellent at that shit. Everything else than just running with like the likes of Jameson Williams and Tyreek Hill. I don't want to be judged against the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Bengals, though. That's what we used to do. I'm not into that. How about we judge ourselves against the Rams and Philly and San Francisco? I mean, that's just it, right? So if you want to talk about like needing to beat the best to be the best, that kind of thing, have the Lions done that? I would say they have not. In San Fran Ravens, oh, I see. How we judge ourselves against the Rams and Philly, San Fran, and the Ravens, right? So, like, this is the question this year that I need the Lions to answer. Let me just hang on one second. Let me just Google 2025 Lions schedule. That is not what I wanted. Oh, well, I guess this will work. Am I sharing my screen still? No. Stop sharing, present, share screen. That thing. None of those is what I want. Why does that work that way? 1 second. I wish I was better at this. I really do. Mike's really good at this stuff. And I'll make this bigger. Okay, so get out of here, cookies. I don't want your cookies. Here's our schedule this year. We're talking about comparing ourselves against the elite teams in the NFL. Okay. Home games, Chicago, Green Bay, okay, Minnesota, okay. Dallas, not worried about Dallas anymore. New York Giants, not worried about them, or Cleveland, or Pittsburgh, or Tampa Bay. Road games, once again, we got the division opponents. We got to win at home this year. You're right. Washington really had our number. Okay, Jared Goff had his worst game of the season. Who are we going to lose to at home, Detroit, fan man? Come on, man. Which of those teams is beating the Lions at home? You want to go through the list? Okay, so here's the thing. Can they go on the road and beat Washington or Philly or the Bengals or the Ravens? Okay, Tampa. Or every road game sucks except the divisional games. So you have NFC conference champ, NFC conference finalist, Super Bowl winner, the Bengals, who I think are just beyond overrated, Baltimore, Kansas City, and the Rams. First of all, I would love to crush the Rams because Mike likes the Rams, and I just hate that he likes them that much. But, Washington might have an elite QB. Philadelphia is just a really well-constructed team. I think of all the teams in the NFL, Detroit and Philadelphia are the most similar. Cincinnati, they're always going to be a threat when you have those wide receivers. And Burrow, Baltimore is just really good. Kansas City is really good. Are they too top-heavy? And Matthew Stafford seems to always have game. Of course, he is down one receiver this year. I hate the Bengals. This is not an easy lineup. And if you can't do things like go on the road and beat Washington or Philly or Cincinnati or Baltimore or Kansas City on the road, can you win a Super Bowl? If Jared Goff is supposed to be as good as he is, if the floor of the team is supposed to be as high as it is, then you have to go on the road and you have to beat these teams. And they have consistently not beaten the best teams in the league. Did they beat Kansas City game 1 last year? Yes. They were out without Travis Kelce. They were without Chris Jones. That matters. They won by 1 point. I don't know if Kelce and Chris Jones equal 1 point worth of, or 2 points, every game, but they could. The Ravens have literally embarrassed the Lions on a couple of occasions. The Bengals have a really bad defense, and I think it'll just be a shootout. Philadelphia, I want to see them play them. I'm glad we don't get to play Buffalo this year finally, because the Buffaloes fucking wrecked us the last 2 or 3 years. Washington would be nice to get some revenge for the playoffs. The Rams are going to be tough, but the Lions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If the Lions win all their home games and then beat the division on the road and beat the Rams at home, they're 12-5. I think they can beat Cincinnati. I think they can beat Kansas City. I really wonder about Philly and Baltimore and Washington, to be honest. So I'm not really concerned about the division. Chicago has made big improvements, but they have obviously a first-year head coach. There's a lot of turnover on that team. Might take them some time to gel. How good is Caleb Williams? Green Bay, I just think that their coach is a bitch. And I mean, they have a lot of good players on offense, but I don't think they have any great players on offense. I think if you can stop Green Bay in the running game, you'll win the game. Minnesota, I like the move. I like the changes they've made this offseason, but they will have a rookie quarterback. And I think that probably means there's going to be enough mistakes where they aren't beating the Lions. But those other teams on the road, that's a mountain. That's a hill to climb. So who beats the Lions in the division? Let's talk about it. Green Bay, is that what you're thinking? Because they have what's the Minnesota's DC's name? Brian. He coached the Dolphins, sued the NFL. I don't know what his name is. They have that guy figured out. I just don't think Chicago is talented enough. Do you think each of the teams in the division can beat the Lions? I got to disagree on that one. If everything went perfectly for them, they all can on any given Sunday. Okay, I mean, sure, you got to go. I mean, that's why Washington beat Detroit in the playoffs, right? Like any given Sunday, but like, I have a hard time seeing it. I mean, I think with Chicago and Minnesota, it's what do their young quarterbacks look like? And I think in Green Bay, it's like, I mean, do they have Jair Alexander? How's their offensive line look? I mean, they don't have the best offensive line I've ever seen. And all of their wide receivers are pretty commonplace, I think. And if my aunt had a set of balls, she'd be my uncle. That's sure. Maybe. I mean, but when I think about the Lions playing these teams just last year, of all the other NFC North teams, I think that the Bears are the ones who have taken the most steps and able to compete with and beat the Lions. But their roster, top to bottom, I still just do not think is at the same level. I still think they're a year or two away from getting their roster to where the Lions have their roster. Now they have the 10th pick in this draft. They have 2 second-round picks. That might happen pretty quickly. I don't think it's this year. Ben Johnson, new head coach. How quickly does he get that figured out? Is he a head coach material, or is he just an excellent coordinator? I don't know. Green Bay's head coach has proven, LaFleur has just proven time and time again when he plays the Lions that like he's just too passive. Like Dan Campbell's going to go for it on 4th down, and more often than not, he's going to get the conversion, whether that's points, whether that's a first down. And it wasn't it against the Packers last year, like they could have lined up for like a 28-yard field goal, and they ran the ball one more time on like 4th down just to run the clock out and then kick the field goal for the win. So, I mean, like, it's that kind of stuff that LaFleur just can't do. And I like Jordan Love. I think he's a pretty good quarterback, but like I certainly don't think that he's put it all together yet. And like, last year I think it was in Green Bay, it was starting to rain. He got flushed. Now he was hurt. And he tried to get rid of the ball, and he threw it to Kirby Joseph, who took it back to the house for 6. So is Jordan Love over the kinds of mistakes that he has made his career up to and including last year? Because the teams that make the fewest mistakes when they play the Lions, if they make fewer mistakes than the Lions, they're probably going to win. They didn't beat the Lions last year. I mean, what makes you say that? Like, in what respect? Because I don't know how a team that didn't beat the Lions last year showed everybody how to do it. Like, so can you expound on what you mean there? Oh, it's so good. Okay. So long as other teams are playing the Lions tight, they're in a position to beat the Lions. So I could understand that. So like by tight, what I hear you say is like fundamentally sound, error-free football, right? If I'm wrong about any of that, I am making an assumption as to your opinion. I agree. If that's the case, like, is JJ McCarthy going to play super tight? Oh, well, that helps. Well, I mean, I might disagree with the talent part there. I mean, like, I do think that there were more holes in the roster, but like Justin Jefferson is better than any wide receiver that the Detroit Lions have. I mean, and I love St. Brown, but Justin Jefferson's like on a pace to compete with Jerry Rice, like in his career. Um, I mean, I think TJ Hawkinson is as good as Sam Laporta. Like Christian Darrisaw is as good as Taylor Decker. I mean, like, I don't know that there's an unbelievable difference in talent. So I think Detroit just figured out. Well, I mean, like, so if the Lions try and focus on Justin Stewart or Justin Jefferson, and like maybe they shut him down, but he has had games in the last 2 years where he's had like 200 receiving yards, against the Lions, and like the Lions still win. I mean, like, I think that if you went and looked at their stats and like their grades, I think that Hawkinson is more expensive. But like over the last 2 years, I think that they're very comparable players. Yes, Detroit's offensive line is superior. I don't think that Minnesota has a bad offensive line. Yeah, I think that Detroit's running backs are better, but like I also don't think that Aaron Jones is a bad running back. Well, I mean, like, so the wide receiver group is Jamison Williams and St. Brown, right? And they have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Like, those are not chumps. Yeah, yes, and I think that the reason that the Minnesota Vikings were as close to the Lions as they were in the two times they played them in like the last 3 weeks of the NFL season was that Detroit's defense was trash at that point. We had like 12 guys on injured reserve or something. It was ridiculous. So like, and I think that Minnesota is better now. Like they got a center, they got another guard, they got two defensive tackles that are worth noting. Like, but they have they have no one in their secondary anymore. I mean, they lost Cameron Bynum. So like to me, when we play the Minnesota Vikings this year, I think it comes down to two things: how good does JJ McCarthy play, and what does their secondary look like? Because the Lions' offense is, I'll give you this. I think that the Minnesota Vikings are better this year than they were last year, but I'll bet Detroit's margin of victory over them in both games is more than what it was combined last year for either game, for both games. East Dakota, that's cute. Um, like Detroit's offense, if you listen to Eric Schlitt at Pride of Detroit at all, which I really recommend that you guys do because I think that he's excellent in his analysis. Detroit's offense is designed to basically say, what does this defense do that's bad? And then they just attack that thing. So if it's like like the Rams game, the first game of the season last year is an excellent example. Like they had a bunch of rookie D linemen who had great seasons. But in that first game, the Lions O-line lined up and just ran them into the ground the whole fourth quarter. And all of their defensive linemen are light. Like they're not good at stopping the run. They're just too light. Like they give up something like an average of like 40 pounds to every one of our linemen on offense. And so Detroit just, in overtime, just ran the ball like 8 consecutive times and scored a touchdown to win the game because the Rams couldn't stop it. Like that's who the Detroit Lions are. Like if you can't run with someone deep, the Lions are going to send Jameson Williams out there and Jahmyr Gibbs out there to run with you. Like, oh, you can't defend the middle of the field. Oh, okay. Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown are going to tear you up. And that's the thing that San Francisco did that was so aggravating to the Lions last year was they double-teamed St. Brown, and so few teams double-team St. Brown because they're afraid of getting beat deep. Well, San Francisco was like, okay, if you want Jared Goff to beat us deep once, that's fine. But, like, we're not going to let you just chew us up over the middle of the field the entire game. We'll give up a play or two here and there, that kind of thing. So, like, I say all of this to say the following. When I am assessing the Detroit Lions versus any other team, especially the teams in the North, I'm looking for where is the other team have a deficiency. Okay. So I think the Lions are going to A, run the ball a ton, and B, in the passing game, if you are bad at any level, that's where they're attacking. And it sounds like a very, very simple thing to say. And I think it's a very, very difficult thing to actually do. And the Lions go out and they do it. At least they did last year. Can they do it again? This year, the team doesn't look that much different than it did last year. Right now, we have 2 new coordinators. I do think there will be regression because of the new coordinators. How much regression remains to be seen. Having Hutch the whole year, obviously, difference maker. Yes, running the ball allows that. You're right. And so, like, if you're any bad team in the NFL, this is where you have to start. I think even before you get a quarterback, you have to go get an offensive line. Because getting an offensive line that can run block at least lets you do that. Like, we can run the ball. We can control the clock. We can, well, not really that much in the NFL anymore, but like we can, to some degree, control the clock. We can put ourselves in efficient down and distance. We can buy our quarterback time. We can run play action. We can ... So, and then to me, I just think that most of the teams in the NFL, especially the ones that are picking in the top 10 this year, are building their teams in reverse. Like you shouldn't be going out and getting a quarterback if you don't have the infrastructure to allow that kid to be successful. That is why a player like Jaden Daniels is so weird, because I don't really know that like the Commanders had the infrastructure to make him successful, but he is. So like Bucky Brooks over at NFL.com has this theory about quarterbacks. Are they tractors or are they trailers? So you're either pulling the whole team forward and you're making everybody better, or the rest of the team needs to be good and raise the level of playing field, like the level of talent around you, so that you can excel. Like the guys that in the NFL right now that are tractors, the guys that are pulling the team forward, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, what's the kid that's marrying Haley Steinfeld in Buffalo, Josh Allen. That's why you're cool with O-line in this draft. Like, it's not that I'm uncool with it. It's just that I think that our O-line is good. They lost Zeitler. Mahogany showed he has some chops. So, like, I'm cool with letting that kid get some run. And I think that the Glasgow had a down year. Put him back on the right side. Put Mahogany at left. And let's see, do we get 70 grades across the board? That kind of thing. Okay, guys, I've been at it 2 hours. So I'm gonna call it for tonight. Starting tomorrow at 7, we have our 8-man mock pre-draft post free agency. Should be fun. We're doing 2 rounds. We should have more and different people than we did last time. I should not have to do 2 divisions. I might still have to. We don't know quite yet. Tune in for that. I would love to see you guys there. Draft a guy for the future and you'll save money. It's true. It's a good point. Can't argue with it. See you later, Dr. Detroit. Thank you guys for tuning in and talking football. I really needed to do that today. It was a lot of fun. Joseph, Austin, Brian M., Lucchies. Did I forget anybody? Fan Man. I don't think I forgot anybody. Hope not. Hopefully see you guys tomorrow. Peace out. Oh, Hatters, I love you, dude. Oh, good.